just imagine being the CEO of Ripple. It's like the most depressing job in the world. It's like, yeah, we got another bank on our network. Oh, wow. Great. Yeah. It's like, what have you really done? What have you really changed? How have you made the world better? You know?
BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap gets you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.io. Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of my interview with Charles Hoskinson. Make sure you guys pronounce his name right, Hoskinson. There's a lot of mispronunciations out there, okay, guys? But Charles, thank you for joining us again today. Let's just jump right into it. In this video, we're going to be really focused on what is actually happening with Cardano right now, developments, and let's start by talking about what the completion of the Shelley phase of the roadmap means, and then also kind of, piggybacking on that, what is the phase we're in now? Goguen, what does that mean, and where is it trying to go? So I guess you want to start by talking about, the completion of Shelley.
Yeah, so the phases run in parallel. Byron was kind of the bootstrap, which got everything started, created liquidity, and introduced the project to the world. But then in parallel, we were working on how do we decentralize and go from a static and federated system to a dynamic and decentralized system that's totally run by the community. How do we get smart contracts? How do we scale and be interoperable? And then how do we add governance to the system? Well, all of these were projects unto themselves. And we have a huge team. There's over 100 people just at my company who wake up every day and work on that. And then we have more than a dozen companies like Twig, Well-Typed, Vacuum Labs, Runtime Verification, Qvik, ATIX, and I can't even remember the rest of them. There's so many of these damn companies, and each and every one of them, they do various different things inside the stack. So right now we're in the Shelley era and we're moving through the Goguen era. So Shelley's was all about dynamic decentralized. So that's about stake pool operators, delegation, getting the staking experience improved and so forth. And we have a couple of major upgrades like hybrid wallets and partial delegation and delegation portfolios and improving the cold wallet experiences and these types of things to do. So it's kind of like an experiential tail on user experience to make it easier to do things. But we're hitting our metrics there. We're about 68% decentralized, fully decentralized by March. And I think 65% of all of the ADA supply is being staked. So we're only under Polkadot in that respect, which is just incredibly impressive to go from 0 to 65% in just a few months' time. And we have over 1,200 stake pool operators that are registered. Makes us about 100 times more decentralized than Bitcoin. Network's very stable. It's running above 98% efficiency. So all of our hypotheses about Ouroboros were true, which is great. So that's the Shelley era, and it's mostly optimization at this point and just improving all those KPIs. The Goguen era is all about smart contracts, and there we chose what we call the island, the pond, and the ocean approach. So we wanted first to have the perfect smart contract experiences. That's why we created Plutus and Marlowe and extended UTXO and native multi-asset and these types of things. And they say, oh, okay, well, if you want like Swift to iOS or, Kotlin to Android or these types of things, like really beautiful development languages that were bespoke built to build great things, Dart to Flutter, that's what Plutus is about. Is we built it hand in glove to be a beautiful smart contract language where you can write high assurance dApps that are scalable and have predictable performance. Now we hired not normal people, but people who write programming languages.
You don't hire normal people. You guys heard it.
Yeah. So normally you hire like an engineer and you're like, hey, go figure out this language, and they go write it. No, what I wanted to do is I wanted to hire people who wrote successful programming languages, people who had actually, languages normal developers use. They contributed to that. So for example, we brought in Memo Chakravarty and Phil Wadler. Wadler worked on parts of Java, Go. He created the Haskell programming language. And these are languages used by hundreds of thousands or millions of developers, respectively. So he's been doing this for over 30 years, and it's 25,000 citations and so forth. And he's both in the academy and also in the engineering world. So we hired a great diverse team. We spent 4 years of first principles research of what is a smart contract, what's an ideal programming language for that. So that's the island. It's a magical place. And if you're going to stay there, you have a happy time. It's like one of those blue zones where everybody lives to 100. Huzzah. But then the pond is what Ethereum has done. That's like that Cambrian explosion of nastiness of all these things. And it's a lot of rough edges, and Solidity is kind of a like a Hellraiser type language, and good luck. But we said, hey, it's a dominant standard right now, so we might as well be interoperable. It's like running a web browser. You should run JavaScript, right?
Absolutely.
So we have full Ethereum support now. We just launched the DevNet for that, and it'll be a side chain of Cardano forever. And whatever Vitalik does, we'll keep pace with it. So your apps will work one-to-one. They're just better, faster, and cheaper on our system. But then we also have the Ocean, and what that's about is how do you bring .NET developers and Java developers and PHP developers and Ruby developers and Python developers, like the normal developers, because if you actually look at like the amount of people who are Solidity developers to them, if you put it in a pie chart,
it's not even close.
It's this little tiny sliver for Solidity. And then everything else is the pie chart, right? So how do you bring the Ocean, everything else? So we have a great technology that we are working on joint developing with a company called Runtime Verification, and it's led by a guy named Grigori Roshu. Now, he worked at NASA, at DARPA, he worked for Boeing, and he's a brilliant professor, and he's been designing programming languages for a really long time, but his specialty is in meta languages. So what he does is he actually writes the rules of a programming language down in like a special language called K, and then you have this universal
special
language.
K?
A special K.
Okay.
Exactly. It's
Don't do that at home, kids. Okay.
So basically he uses K to write the semantics of a programming language. And then once you do that, the computer can automatically build an interpreter, a compiler, all these tooling. So long and the short is Yella and what he's done gives us a path over the next 3 to 5 years to support all modern programming languages, C, C++, and these things for purposes of writing smart contracts. It's a process called semantics-based compilation. Very hard magic moon math, but that's what we do. We worry about the magic moon math. And then we hide that from the developer and the user. Yeah. And then we let the developer basically focus on what they want to do. And using K, if somebody wants to add a new programming language to Cardano, they just write the semantics and submit them to the blockchain. So it'll take a few years for that to roll out. But as the island looks better and Plutus is great, and we keep up with Ethereum, that's a third plank of the development strategy that's going to go out there. And that's what's going to bring the 5 million .NET developers in. That's going to bring the 10 million Java developers in, and the tens of millions of web developers into Cardano in the 2020s. So we have a pretty good strategy in all those different domains. One last point. We're really good at writing domain-specific languages. So Marlowe is an example of that. And, we say, okay, well, why should the developer have to figure out how to write a really complex financial contract?
This is like the space. Like you got the pond, the ocean. Now you're trying to bring in like outer space with Marlowe, right? Just bring everybody in.
Domain experts. And so, for example, you might be an MBA, but you're not a programmer, but you know a lot about how a financial product works. So how do you design that and give that to an engineer and say, this is what I want for my Ford swap or my insurance contract or whatever? Well, with Marlowe, it's paint by numbers. It's like Lego bricks. You can just drag and drop them in the interface and it automatically generates the code. And you get to use a SAT solver and other tools to verify that the code is correctly implemented. So that's just an example of a DSL, but you can do a DSL for law. You can do a DSL for supply chains, for identity products and all these other things. So the way we design Cardano is it's very easy to write DSLs for it. And so another one that we're probably going to write is an Oracle query language because oracles are so important. And then you could write a DSL for games. You could do all kinds of cool things. So that's like the last mile is like, how do you make it really easy, safety scissors, safety helmet to write code with non-domain experts so they can just plug and play that into their contract and it does some very specific logic and it's unlikely to have a DAO hack and it's unlikely to have a parity hack or any of these types of things. In some cases, having too powerful of a tool can cause a problem for the developer. Now, it took 4 years to pull this entire model together. And, we talked to everybody in the programming language community. We wrote a lot of papers in it. And we talked to a lot of people who are professional language designers and other companies. And we brought a lot of very specialized firms in on everything from how do you write specification languages to how do you do testing and QA to what are the major hacks that have occurred in our industry to what are problems like how do you do resource determinism, like knowing your gas cost or how do you shard and these things. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we think we have a really good handle on it and a really beautiful 3 to 5 year time horizon to not only do all the things that the competitors do, but then bring in the rest of the world and get that whole pie so we can take the ocean and they can still live in the pond.
Well, 3 to 5 years from now, we'll be on the next cycle. So that'll be really fun timing. Kind of like this last time.
And by the way, you can write smart contracts right now on Cardano. The dev nets are up. You can write Ethereum smart contracts on it. And quarter 1, quarter 2 of next year is when we're going to be turning on all of the first generation smart contract capabilities. And when I say 3 to 5 years, I'm talking about all the optimizations, the sharding, the scalability, dealing with data availability problems, getting in .NET languages, all these types of things. There's an enormous tail of things that are needed to be done. And so that allows us to go above and beyond what the incumbent standards are.
Yeah, I want to go back to the roadmap for a second, because I'm going to ask you a question that literally only I care about. No one else probably cares about this question, but I need to know the answer, Charles. When you create this roadmap, you have Shelley, Voltaire, Gauguin, which should be pronounced Gauguin, just so everyone knows. That's what Google says, okay? I don't care how he pronounced his own name, okay? You got a computer scientist, you got a writer, you got a poet, you got all kinds, it's all over the board here. I need to know, how did you come about picking the people for the phases of the roadmap?
Well, I mean, it's just all people that I admired in my life.
Well, there you go.
Voltaire's work, and I read Shelley's work, and there's some of the things were cautionary tales, like Percy Shelley wrote Ozymandias, for example.
Oh, the name of the penultimate episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Yeah, he shot Hank.
Oh God, yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. That's good though. I like that. They're all people that you admire. So when can we expect the next phase to be announced? The BitBoy phase.
The BitBoy phase.
The BitBoy phase.
Well, go build something on Cardano, and I think I'll.
Okay. I'll get you a lot of views and a lot of clicks. How about that? That'll be enough. Okay. So that's really interesting. I'm glad you answered that question, because that is something that's one of these things that I go and I look at it and I try to find the tie-in, and the fact that they're just people you admire. They're obviously, big names, but it also, I'm used to having looking at the people and they've been dead for hundreds of years. And then I started looking into Gauguin, and I'm like, oh, he's barely been dead. He just died, 10 years ago? Something like that, 20 years ago?
And actually, he was the advisor of Grigori Roshu, the CEO.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, when Grigori was at University of California, Gauguin was his advisor.
Very interesting. Okay, well, I'm getting good information for myself. I find there's a lot of stuff I care about other people don't. But something that people do care about tremendously right now. And, you've done a fantastic job explaining all the different parts of what's going on with Cardano. We know, and you already kind of alluded to, the gigantic force that decentralized finance is going to be in the world. We're working out a lot of the scams and the bad projects and stuff right now. What do you see Cardano's role being in decentralized finance?
Well, I've always said that Cardano is kind of a financial operating system. So my hope is DeFi runs on it. And, what we want to do is give economic identity to those who don't have it. So I didn't come into this space to go and make a bank richer, or to go and work with Fortune 500 companies or these things. I mean, there's plenty of good ways to make money in the world, and that's a pretty dreary, depressing way. I mean, just imagine being the CEO of Ripple. It's like the most depressing job in the world. It's like, yeah, we got another bank on our network. Oh, wow, great, yeah. It's like, what have you really done? What have you really changed? How have you made the world better? So what gets me up?
You brought in security.
Yeah, there you go. What gets me up in the morning is to say, okay, I want to walk into a place where people have nothing, but they're ambitious as hell and they're fired up. And if you give them something, they can take it to the next level. And you come back in 20, 30 years and their life is totally changed. And that's what we have. 70% of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is at or under the age of 30. And these kids are internet enabled. They're taking Coursera classes. They're watching videos on YouTube. They're just like you and me, but the only difference is they live in a world with horrible systems. We don't. And as a consequence, they can't preserve, protect, and build wealth. So the point of Cardano, why we built it, was to basically be that foundation. And they said, well, what's the point? Why is that money? Why do we care? Well, imagine being in China in the 1980s. China was actually poorer than Africa in the 1980s in many places. And people don't remember that. And a lot of people said, China? Oh, that's nobody. They can't even feed their people. Like, they had mass starvation all the time. But some very clever entrepreneurs looked at how the political winds were changing. They looked at the will of the people, and they said, if we stick with this, in 30, 40 years' time, China will be one of the top countries in the entire world. Well, similarly, when I look at the trends in Africa, there are $5.6 trillion of illiquid wealth that's just locked up. And if we have the right systems, it becomes liquid. That alone changes the world. And to give 1 billion plus people, a lot of which, 700 million of which are under the age of 30, who are ambitious as hell, they got a chip on their shoulder, and they want to go prove themselves, a completely new system that's 10 times better than the system I have in America, that is the thing that's going to change the whole world. Because it's once they succeed, the only way for America and Europe to compete with them is to become them. It's like newspapers. If you ask them, hey, is this internet a good idea? No, we don't like the internet very much.
Bad news.
Yeah.
First mover advantage.
The New York Times, they realized that, oh boy, maybe the internet is a big deal, and they adapted. The Rocky Mountain News didn't, and which one is still around? So similarly, that's how you get rid of Chase, and that's how you get rid of all these big giant banks and these things and change them and make them ethical and honest. You don't go in America and say, please change the regulation, please change the way things are doing. You change the market, you change the game. And that's why we constructed Cardano. So we wanted to build a system that over time could grow to 1 billion users, and over time could provide economic identity to those who don't. And if we got it right, that system will hold more wealth in it than the system of America collectively. Yeah. And what does it mean? It means that everybody else in the world is going to change.
Much larger than America.
So, and let's say we get it wrong. Well, at the very least, we built a lot of great technology. Everything we do is open source. We've never pursued a patent. We've written 91 papers. By the time I'm dead, I've probably written 1,000. We created the whole scientific foundations for an industry. We've wrote 1 million lines of code, and we brought a multi-100,000 person movement together for Cardano in its current instantiation. We can wake up next year, it could be in the millions. And there's a lot of passion. People have tattoos of our logo on their body. They're not going anywhere. That's the other thing, is when you have a strong mission and a vision about how you want to change the world, it's not about money for people. They understand that this is something that's going to be part of a movement that they're going to be in for years of their lives, if not decades, and they want to be part of that movement.
Well, I think, I think that this brings up like a pretty interesting point, which is something I've been talking a lot about on my channel. And obviously, as you know, Charles, I mean, people that watch my channel, they want to make money. There's more people in crypto right now that want to make money than truly care about what this whole thing started as and what it's trying to solve. And it's interesting having
exclusive things, because if you invest with principles and those principles are right for humanity, look at what happened to Tesla. Elon Musk is running around saying, I have this insane dream where I'm going to go and fight the oil companies. Like, good luck with that. Those guys kill you. And now he's sitting on a company that's more valuable than Tesla, Ford, GM, Honda, and Nissan combined.
Wow.
I mean, think about that. So, and same for SpaceX. He said, I'm going to go to Mars. Like, no one believed him.
Yeah,
the U.S. government spent more money on the Orion program, which has never taken an astronaut to space, than Elon Musk has spent with SpaceX. And, he's like the taxi service for NASA now. So even if you want to make money, what you have to do is couple that avarice with a recognition that the world is changing and bet on the people who actually are best positioned to change. And so for that, you look at the demographics, you look at what technology is doing to people, and you look at the global makeup of the economy. And we're moving from a monopolar to a multipolar world. It's no longer one country's running everything or one standard's running everything, and power is being pushed to the edges. So cryptocurrencies in general, as an asset class, are going to eat the world. That's something I firmly believe in. And then it's just a question of which ones are going to be around in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And it's the ones that plan to be around in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And those are the ones that are going to get the rising tides. And so I think that's the way that you look at it. And if you have a very short time horizon, the odds are you're going to lose your money 9 times out of 10. Because you're lucky if you make money. And then people confuse being lucky with being smart. You're not, so the only way you make money over a long period of time is being very strategic and also betting on trends. That's what all the great people do. Yeah.
Well, I think that, the world is going to be drastically different. And this is something that I've been trying to hammer home to my people over the last few, weeks, is that when you're thinking about the revolution that crypto is, you look back at all of the industrial revolution and the internet revolution, the dot-com boom. You look at all of these revolutions, the automobile boom, and you always see that the companies that come out that lead the world and lead the economy are not the same companies that went in before those revolutions. And so I just want one final question, and it can just be yes or no. I don't know if you've got that in you to say yes or no only. Okay. You're kind of like me. You really want to hammer it home, and I like that. Will Cardano ever be the #1 cryptocurrency market cap-wise?
I don't know.
Okay.
It could be. Who knows?
Is that your goal? Is that like something you want?
Yeah, the goal, my goal is to be number one cryptocurrency in terms of user volume. I'd like to have 1 billion users in my system, and I'd like for Cardano to be its own economy, a circular economy where people buy and trade things all within one system. They use it for their payment system, they use it for everything. And what would that do? The cap, obviously, it would reflect very well on the value.
We just talked about, the long-term proposition.
But, it's hard to know. It's impossible to know because what if the U.S. government, for example, tokenizes the U.S. dollar? And so obviously Bitcoin would be very small compared to the capitalization of the GDP. The same for China. They're creating a state-sponsored currency,
which supposedly
the next
sucks. Everybody says, but.
Oh, of course it sucks because
it was terrible. All the people that tested it said it was terrible. So,
but they'll mandate the use of it and they'll combine it with social credit. So the problem is the world changes.
Ooh,
like what if Microsoft was to release a coin and they have 2 billion users? It's like just with Windows, you have a wallet right built in, or Google or Apple. So that's what makes this job fun. Is that you don't know it's going to come, and so all I can focus on are the things that we can do, and making sure we're best prepared to navigate the waters wherever they take us, and hopefully they take us to more favorable places. But we're built to survive even if they don't. We survived crypto winter, and we'll survive the next crypto winter. We have been in this space a long time.
There will be one. Everybody, people coming into space, they don't know. We will have another one. Well, Charles, I tell you, this has been a fascinating interview, start to finish. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. We'd love to have you back on the channel at some point, and then down the road when we do real life things again, it'd be fun to kind of connect and do something in that way too. But
you got to come to Africa, man. We'll take you all around. We'll do the tour.
Yeah, people have been telling me Akon's trying to get me over there too. He wants me to go over there and see it too. So Akon has really showed me a lot about what's going on in Africa. A lot of cool stuff we could talk about on a different interview. Yeah, there's some ostriches there too. The ostriches are in Africa. I'd like to see one. But Charles, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything, you kind of want to end on it, where people can find you at and things like that?
Yeah, just go to Cardano.org if you're interested in Cardano. You can always follow me on Twitter, IOHK_Charles. And we also subscribe to our YouTube. Go to our website, iohk.io. We have a great YouTube page. We have a great blog on the site. So information is power. Do your own research and and there is no rush. That's I think the last parting piece of wisdom. In emerging markets, people have this perception of, oh God, if I don't do something today, right now, I'm going to miss all the opportunities. It's like, oh, okay. So if you didn't start an internet company in the 1990s, you can't make any money now on the internet. I mean, it's like, there's a crazy girl who's like got an OnlyFans page who makes $1 million a month. What's her name? Belle Delphine or something like that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing sexy stock tips on OnlyFans.
I know. I just read about this morning. I saw it come up on Smart News. I have no idea who this person is. She's 21 years old and she's making $1 million a month on OnlyFans.
I mean, I don't know her like that. I'm just saying I know who she is because I'm on TikTok.
And so my point is,
YouTuber.
like, it's like, if you miss the train, there's another train. You might have to wait a little while for it, but another one will come. And so what matters most is you're comfortable. And you understand what you're doing and don't rush. And if it takes a little while, it takes a little while. And that's for everything in the cryptocurrency space, from the use of cryptocurrencies, storage of them, to your understanding of them. There's no rush at all. Things are cyclic. If you miss a cycle, just wait for the next one.
Absolutely. Yeah, we say that all the time on the channel. Well, Charles, once again, thank you so much. And we'll end it here. Thank you for everybody else for watching. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. Somehow I think I came out of this more bullish on Cardano than I was. It was already one of my top coins for this next bull run. So we'll see how it performs. You guys let me know down in the comments how you enjoyed this. Let Charles know what you guys thought about the interview. That's all I got. Be blessed. Way out.
Cheers.